Welcome to Vision Plus, a program featuring a positive outlook, dealing with everyday situations of marriage, children, and business. Believing Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Teacher, author, speaker, delighting audiences from New York to Sacramento with a heart and message for the people today. Bonnie would like to remind you of the 800 number on the screen. Please feel free to call at any time throughout the broadcast and share your concerns. Leave your prayer request and someone will pray with you. And now, teacher, author, and speaker, Bonnie.
And she has a group that's about ready to graduate, but right now we want to talk about her book that's coming out. In fact, there's a book signing very soon. Life is Like a Rose. Cheryl Gray, I remember her from a long time ago in the ministry that they have. But tell us a little bit about how you got to be part of this anthology, Life is Like a Rose. Cheryl, I may do that, Sarah. Sheila. Cheryl is the one who put the book together. Sheila is the one you're looking at right now.
Cheryl is a good friend of mine. She's been a friend of mine for many years. And
Just go ahead.
About 30 years ago, the Lord spoke to me, and He told me
That on the PTL program? I was on the PTL program. But
this lady on the PTL program, back then, that was probably the only Christian thing that was going on TV. And this lady was on there that had a phobia of going outside.
Yes.
And she would not go outside. Every day she prayed for the Lord she'd say, Lord, is today the day that I get to go outside? And one day the Lord spoke to her and said that He had allowed her to go through. It said, a rose never blooms out of season, and I've allowed you to go through the things that you've gone through for you to grow roots. And one day you're going to bloom like a beautiful rose. Well, many times the Lord has used roses to push me up to go to the extra mile or to go where He needed me to go. And I remember at one time I was in Birmingham. My little brother had a brain tumor, and I went shopping one night after the doctors had told me that he was not going to live. And I went out to get in my van, and there was a long silk yellow rose on my van step. And I didn't know where it came from, but I just knew that God had sent that there. And many times, just about the time that I'd want to give up, God would lay a rose wherever I needed it. And when I first started Christian Women's Job Corps, it was in September, and I remember it was something big that was about to happen that day, and I'd woke up that morning and everything had went wrong. And I kept thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And I went out to get in my car, and there was a dead stick sticking up out of a flower pot, and it had a huge rose on it. And I knew that I was at the right place at the right time. Well, several months ago, Cheryl Gray called me one morning. I had been walking and I'd been praying, and I said, God, just let me know that you're here. Let me know that you're hearing what I'm saying. I've prayed everything. I've done everything. God, let me hear you. And 30 minutes later, Cheryl Gray called me, and she said, Sheila, yesterday when I was writing my book, Life is Like a Rose, I seen you sitting over in the corner of my office, and I think you're supposed to write a story for my book. Well, immediately, I knew what the story was supposed to be about, and it was about forgiveness, to forgive my stepfather before he passed away. And the name of the story is Daddy's Little Girl Blossoms. And when I first got the book, Cheryl, after they were published and everything, Cheryl sent me one of the first copies off of the press. And when I pulled this book out of the mailbox, all through the book there's vivid colors of roses. And I knew that God had sent another rose in my life, a book full of them with my name in it. God is so faithful.
Well, tell me what made you want to start Christian Women's Job Corps. What I want to know is, what was your life like in your childhood and your early adulthood? You had married at age 14, so you beat me by 2 years. I was 16.
Well, growing up, my mother was a single parent, and I was molested from the time I was 4 till I got married at 14. When my mother died, I was 13 years old, and she died from a self-induced abortion. And I had to move in the home with the man that was molesting me. And shortly after well, I was 13 when she passed away, moved in with him. I ran away from home 6 or 7 times. I lived on the streets of Gadsden at 13 years old. And the social workers made me go back home. Well, I met my first husband February the 14th, and we married on March 13th. My grandmother, 2 weeks after I told her, or I was trying to tell her what my abuser had been doing to me, she went and signed for me to get married. I had my first child when I turned 16 June the 7th, and she was born June 21st. I got married, or I had 4 children by the time I was 21. I'm now 50 and have 12 grandchildren, 3 step great-grandchildren, and it's been wonderful. But when I first came to Lake City many years ago, which is the church that we're sitting in, I was a mess. I never was taught how to be faithful to a cat, much less a husband or anything else. And someone come along, which was my pastor and his wife, and God used them mightily in my life. And 25 years ago, I knew that one day I was going to get to make a difference. When I was 12 years old, the Lord spoke to me and said, Sheila, I'm going to use you beyond your imagination. Well, I knew I was getting older, but I didn't know how He was going to use me. And I was a hairdresser, and I went to a women's conference one weekend, and the Lord spoke to me just as clear as a bell to go home and close my beauty shop. And He reminded me of how many people I had not won to the Lord in my beauty shop, which was called Revelations. And He said, I need you to go home. I've got something for you to do. And it tells a little bit about that in the book. But 2 weeks after I took my sign down, I run up on Christian Women's Job Corps. And when I walked in and I come face to face with women who used to be me. And I knew I was in the right place.
Where was that?
In Albertville, at the Christian Women's Job Corps in Albertville. And I taught a session up there. And the site coordinator at that time was Renee Strange, and she said, Sheila, they're having site coordinating training in Gunnersville. And said, it's usually at other places, but I need you to go. And I went not knowing exactly what it was. And while I was sitting there, I thought, there is no way that I will ever use this. It's too big for me. I got married at 14, so during AEA week in the 8th grade, I quit school. When I was 35, I went and got my GED. And I knew that I would never use it. Well, my pastor at that time, Brother Stan Broadus, came in about 20 minutes after I left that last class. And I told him where I'd been, and I told him what I was doing. And he said, you've got anything you need. You've got a classroom, you've got an office, whatever you need, you've got it. And his heart went out for Christian Women's Job Corps. And I'm standing there thinking, I really don't think I need this because I really don't think I can do it. And one night I was laying in the bed about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was praying. I was crying because I knew that I couldn't do this. I'd never put a council together. I'd never done any of this. And I said, Lord, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. And He said, now we can talk. 2 or 3 days later, Miss Brenda Hicks walked into my office, who has been working with nonprofit organizations for 25 years. And it has grown. We've had 33 graduates. This is our 6th session, and we're about to graduate 11 girls. And the graduation will be April the 24th at the Episcopal Church in Gunnersville. This Saturday, from 11 to 1, Miss Cheryl Gray will be at the Gunnersville Library for a book signing. And Saturday night, we're just going to have a little party for the girls, and it's going to be a pajama party. We're going to enjoy being girls. A lot of my girls have never got to be little girls because they got caught in having to grow up real quick. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to teach them that you can have fun without the drugs or the alcohol or the men or whatever. And I'm telling you, 25 years ago, I had a dream of making a difference in a woman's life, like my pastor and Christine made in mine. And today I'm living my dream. I could not picture myself being anywhere else but right here.
Well, you're doing an incredible job, and your people just praise you with what they've been through and what they're going through and what they're on the other side passing through. God didn't come to give them something that stays there, but it goes on so that they can be an influence to other people. And that's kind of like a lot like my story and my daughter's story. But now about if we could jump right back, how did you forgive yourself? I know Joyce Myers had talked about this a lot. For the incest that happened in your life, how did you ever come to the point where you said, I know that's not my fault, and forgive your stepfather?
Well, it was my grandfather, but 2 days before he passed away, the Lord made a way for me to go to him and forgive him.
It was your grandfather?
My step-grandfather. And 2 days later, he passed away. And I know that my pastor always says that unforgiveness is like you drinking poison and expecting them to die. When you have forgiveness, when you forgive someone, it don't tell them that it's okay what you did to me. You're telling God, Lord, it's all in your hands. And unforgiveness will be like a cancer that will just eat you up on the inside, and you'll never be successful at anything because that cancer will literally kill you. But as you forgive other people, it's like God just opens you up and pours this healing oil inside of your spirit, and you begin to be able to share with other people. I've always said, God, use me, Lord. I want to be used. But don't touch any of this back here, Lord. This is too ugly, and this is too dirty, and I don't want you to use this back here. But one night, my pastor had several of us to get up and give their testimonies on Wednesday night. And one Wednesday night, I stood up and I shared my testimony. And it was just like the whole earth shifted under my feet. And the first class I taught in Albertville, I said, Lord, what do you want me to teach? What do you want me to say? I prayed before I ever went in every class. And the night that I gave my testimony, I said, I'll never do that again. Don't ever ask me to do that again. That was horrible. It was like somebody took a butter knife and cut my heart out because I'd bared my soul. And I wanted to crawl under the rug and go out the door. But the next Sunday morning, this lady walked up to me and she said, my husband has not slept a wink because we never could have thought that you've been through what you've been through. The first class I went in, I said, Lord, I'm never going to do that again. And I said, Lord, what do you want me to do? He said, I want you to share your testimony. I said, no, I done told you I'm not going to do that.
Has Sheila?
But the first time that when I walked in there, I shared my testimony, and those girls began to weep. And one of the girls said, Miss Sheila, if God did that for you, can He do it for me? Well, now, Miss Bonnie, it's just it's a habit that I love. I mean, I went in to celebrate recoveries and shared my testimony, and women come down to give their heart to the Lord. And all the way to the church that night, I would say, Lord, you know, I don't think I want to do this. I'm getting sick. I don't want to do this. But then whenever I'd get finished and I'd see the outward products of what God did through my testimony, I said, Lord, let me do it just one more time. I want to do it again.
Just one more time.
Yes, just one more time, because, Bonnie, I am God's.
Yeah.
And everything I've ever been through is His.
Yes.
And everything I'm going to go through is His. And wherever He takes me, I have the confidence in knowing that He's going to take me through it. And He's my world.
Well, how can we get this book for people that are on the internet that might be from Germany or some other place?
Cheryl Gray has set up a website that's called lifeislikearose.com. And for $20 donation to Cheryl Gray's ministry, which is Metro Ministries, Metro Ministries is an inner city program in Mobile, Alabama, where Cheryl and her husband has went into the housing projects and raising up leaders of the children in the housing projects. And for a $20 donation, which is tax deductible, you will get Life is Like a Rose at lifeislikearose.com.
That's incredible. They get your full testimony there that you gave one more time. That's in the book. That'll
Well, they
go
get the
worldwide.
testimony of how I forgave my father, my stepdad, before he passed away. And it shares
But it
a
was
little
the
bit about me.
step-grandfather that was the molester, right?
Mhm.
And why did you need to forgive your stepfather?
Many people through my life, Bonnie, have mistreated me, and he was just one of those. When I was a little girl, I was Daddy's little girl. My mother married him when I was 18 months old, and I didn't know that he was not my real father. And when I was 6 years old, he beat me and put me in the hospital. He left us for another woman. He abused my mother. I watched beatings and first one thing and another, and part of that's in this book. But about 18 months before he passed away, he came back in my life, and God gloriously renewed every part of me that ever wanted to be Daddy's little girl again. And my dad, before he passed away, was my hero once again. And at his funeral, I bought him a great old big flower arrangement that was a big heart. It was about 4 foot wide, 4 foot tall, and a big old ribbon down the middle of it said Daddy's little girl. And this is a story about how I forgave my dad for the abuse that I went through as a little girl. And I always wanted to be that Daddy's little girl again, and I got to be that. God will honor our prayers.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to actually get to hear some of the testimonies from the girls. And I thank you very much for sharing your testimony. And Life is Like a Rose. We want to all get one of those. If you are from some other area, you can dial the toll-free number, 1-877-823-6886. And if you'd like, I'll repeat that. I think it's running across the bottom of the screen. 1-877-823-6886. Just contact us and ask for Sheila Banks' book. We're going to call it your book, Life is Like a Rose, because it really is your testimony and anthology of some other people, so you'll be blessed doubly when you get the book. And I want to thank you for coming. And I want to hear the results of some of these girls that had wonderful things. They said they had quit drinking and living with the wrong kind of people, and so many wonderful things, and coming away from adultery. And it was just incredible to hear all their stories,
Yes.
what the Lord can do in their life.
Amen.
God is so good. And we truly can say we trust in Him with all our heart, lean not upon our own understanding, in all our ways acknowledge Him, and He is directing our life. And I do think He allows us to go through things so that
yes.
we can be a blessing to other people. And so I'm happy that you joined us today, and let us know if you'd like to have the book, Life is Like a Rose, that Sheila Banks of the Christian Women's Job Corps is part of. And I want to thank Sherry Muller, who you've seen her testimony before too, and I want to thank all of you for joining us today. God bless you. We'll be back in a moment. How did you get here too? How did you hear about and get started taking Christian Women's?
Well, when was it, the last semester before this? The semester before this, I had a friend going here, and she told me about it, and so I thought, well, okay, I'll go. And I did, and I liked it, and I came for maybe 2 weeks, and I dropped out and started doing things my way, drinking and doing drugs again, and at the time, I had a DUI against me at the time. I wasn't dealing with it. I wasn't trying to get no job and take care of it because I was thinking that my boyfriend was going to do it. But anyhow, so I ended up, months later, I went to jail, and I spent 18 days in there away from my daughter, and she was in the courtroom whenever they took me to jail, and it broke her heart. And she'll tell me now, when you went to jail, you broke my heart. And so the whole time I was in jail, I just prayed that it wouldn't be jailhouse religion, and that if I got out and drank and did any kind of drugs, it would make me sick. Well, the first day I got out of jail, I did drink, and it made me sick as a dog. I think because I really meant it with all my heart when I asked the Lord, let it make me sick. Because I really wouldn't want to drink whenever I started drinking that day. And anyway, so I was sick for 2 days, and then after that I went back to my ex-boyfriend, and there was some stuff still going on, so I just decided, I refuse. I didn't even know why at the time why I left, but now I know it's because there was temptation. There was going to end up being temptation there, and I would end up falling. And I also knew that this time around it wouldn't be me going to jail, but my daughter being taken from me, and I couldn't bear that. So I left. I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing, but I knew in my heart that the Lord said, if you'll just go. And I thought, we just had Christmas. I'm thinking in my mind, I got all this. We had the best Christmas we've had yet. But I just said, whatever. I grabbed a couple pieces of clothing, stuck it in a bag, and took off walking. My daughter didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. And then the Genesis Church put me into a motel room for a couple of days, and then my Bible study teacher that I met about a year ago, after walking up on her porch, asking her for a ride, she come and she let me stay at her house for about 2 or 3 weeks, and they put me into a trailer. And about in the 2 or 3 weeks that I was staying with her, she said, Tanya, I want you to look at this. And she said, I think this would be good for you. And she said, show Christian Women's Job Corps. And I said, I've been to that before. I said, and I dropped out. And she said, well, I think that'd be good for you. I just knew it was right. And then I had got to thinking on her graduation day, after I'd been coming here for a couple of weeks, I started adding up the days. They wanted me to spend 148 days in jail. If I'd have done my whole 148 days, I'd got out April 28th. And we graduate on April 24th. So I just think that it was all, lined up, because I know God knew my heart.
Amen.
And this is part of it.
Praise God.
You're gonna ruin my makeup.
Well, you just wait till you get to the other ones. That's pretty good.
Uh-oh, one that laughs loudest is next. Wait a minute, let me show you. She went over and bought this monkey for me. And so now the monkey's on your back. You giggled the loudest. The monkey's So your story is next.
We got the same monkey at home. I first just came because I just wanted to find a job, and then it was so much more. And I had been with somebody for 3.5 years, and him and I had split up and was going through hard times, and it's made me a lot stronger.
That monkey really talked good, huh? Sure he will. Okay, Ray, go ahead and tell us your story.
If you want.
Ray.
Yeah, she drugged me here, literally. Well, yeah, my brother got killed in a car wreck on May the 1st, and he went to 21 years old, and it made me open my eyes and realize that it could be gone in a blink of an eye. So the Lord was dealing with me, and I told Jennifer, I said, I can feel him pulling me, but I keep just jerking away. And then she taught me into getting out and coming in and speaking to Sheila. And I don't cry. I used to didn't cry. I hadn't cried in years. My kids got took away from me, and I didn't cry. But I was in her office 2 minutes, and she had me squalling like a baby. And I've cried every day since. Yeah.
I comprehend a little bit.
And I know now that I don't have to walk by myself.
Amen.
Amen.
A little bit, empathize with you. My daughter got killed on university. One daughter, not the one that was born by my first husband, that my husband adopted. She has breast cancer. So we all know heartaches. And when my daughter got killed, she was a Russian interpreter. She had gone to college in Dallas and UAH and had become, she would take groups of people and Bibles. Her and her group took 1 million Bibles to the former Soviet Union. And since her death, there have been 10,000 youth come to the Lord in the Ukraine and the former Soviet Union because of the work she did and with what was sent back. And so everything, your brother's death has a wonderful testimony of your being healed.
Yeah, he took him to save me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I believe that with all my heart. That we have to sometimes go through the horrible things to bring us to the Lord. And what Sherry's been through with her husband's death, and how she's now doing grief counseling to other people, so she can. I want to hear from the mother and daughter, since my daughter and I get together. My daughter that has the breast cancer, we're going to believe in her healing. But tell us how you two got together to come here.
Well, started out once together, didn't quite finish. I think I went for maybe 4 weeks, 3 weeks. Might have just been a week. I don't know. But anyways, I came and I liked it, but it just wasn't for me, I guess. That's what I thought. Then this session came back up, and my mom was going to start, but I wouldn't. So I'm not going back. I'm not going to do it again. But she kept on me about it. She told me Miss Sheila said I better come back. So I came back, and I'm here.
Mama, you gave good advice. Why are you here?
I'm here, like we said, we started, well, first of all, we grew up in the church. And we started together last year. And I saw in the paper, I was like, well, they're starting it up again. And I wasn't doing anything with my time worthwhile. And I knew I needed this because I needed, if I was going to go every day, I needed to walk with God, not just walking out in the world. So I decided to come, and it's been a blessing to me because I lost my dad Valentine's Day. And it's helped me deal with that loss because my dad was my rock. He was all that I had. And I know God wanted me to depend on him, not my dad. So, you know, this class is just a blessing because it's helped me deal with a lot. It's strengthened me in a lot of ways that I needed to be strengthened. The instructors have taught me that being a mother to my kids is very important, whether they know that or not. It's a blessing. This class is a blessing to me.
Praise God.
In so many ways.
Praise the Lord. Amen.
And I just thank Miss Sheila.
God on.
She don't know. She's a blessing to us all, and I hope she continues this class. I really and truly do. It's a good walk for women in so many ways.
Yes, it is.
Amen.
Yes, amen. It's like the time that things were happening.
I was about to be a snotty-nosed kid before I come here.
You'll get the kids back, or did you get them back?
No, not yet. That's
You
a
will. You
work
will.
in progress.
Yeah, okay, you will. Miss Tanya, who are you? Karen? I know.
Well, I seen the paper,